do you ever have like bad days? Right? Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this way: have you ever had just something bad happen to you? You know, it may be for you. It may be something. I think there's different levels of bad. You know, one time whenever I was in high school, I got stabbed in the back with a knife, and I had money taken from me, and it was a bad time. That was a very. You know what? I need to go ahead and pray first. Let's go ahead and pray. Father God, I thank you. I thank you for the awesome group out in the Curry there, and I pray, God, you don't let them distract me, and don't distract us. God, I thank you for this wonderful time that we get to have with you. God, I pray that it be your words, not mine, that it be your glory, not mine, and that I wouldn't say anything that you haven't deemed for me to say. And I pray all this in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen. But I think it's safe to say that there are levels of bad happening, right? You stub your toe, you think that's bad, okay? You have something along the lines like you made a bad grade. For some of you, that's like, oh, that's normal. But for some of you, that's a bad thing. And then you have like, I got a speeding ticket. Some of you, it's like I got speeding tickets, more than one. And it's a bad thing. You know, but then there's like don't look at anybody. Come on, I had 3 on my record. Don't judge. All right? And it was a long time ago before I learned. So, but then there's like real bad times. You know, like there's times whenever we would classify them as very bad. Tate, will you go pull that door shut all the way if you can? Whenever I was in middle school, I was actually a 6th grader. I fell on some really bad times. My mom went to a conference in Houston. And whenever I was there, whenever she was there, she got really tired. It was a week-long conference, and the second to last day, she was driving, and she fell asleep at the wheel, and she went through a red light, and she got hit. A van hit her, T-boned her. It was all her fault because she ran the red light. And I remember getting a call, and it was we got the call, and my dad brought me and my brother in. And my brother's 8th grade, I'm 6th grade, and I was like, you know, what happened? And they're like, well, your mom's been in an accident. We're just going to pray for her. Because when we first heard, we didn't know if she was going to make it or not. It was a pretty bad wreck. She had lost a lot of blood. And as a 6th grader, I wasn't really in a spot where I was like, oh, cool, God's going to take care of it. I didn't know what was going on. My mom, just so you know, my mom is alive. She did make it. She had a long recovery. She still has foot pain, some of that. She got her foot crushed, and several other things that happened in it. But we all have bad times. And if you haven't had a bad time like that, I'm not saying, hey, everyone's mom's going to get in a wreck. I'm not saying that. But you're going to have some sort of bad time that comes up in your life. You know, for you, maybe it's already happened. Maybe something along those lines. Maybe it's something like, you know, you lose a loved one before you really think it's their time. You know, maybe for you it's something along the lines of your parents get a divorce, and you know that's a bad time. It may be for you like your girlfriend or boyfriend dumps you, and while a lot of people on the outside might think like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, when you're in it, it is a very big deal, right? It may be for you a bad time. Maybe you get in an accident. Maybe you have a chronic condition that, you know, that's not going to go away, that you get to live with for the rest of your life. And there's like just this bad time in your life. And if you've ever had that happen to you, a lot of us come to the same question. And the question is why? The question is, why, God? Why would you let something like that happen? Why would you allow this to happen? Why would you even, you know, think that this was something that was whatever, you know, why God? Some of you have stepped away from God because of that question and because of wanting to know why God. Well, guess what? We're going to go to the Bible, and in the Bible, there are tons of why God moments. And we're going to start with one. Actually, this would be what I consider the most disturbing verse for a lot of us in the Bible. Most disturbing. And I'm not talking about Deuteronomy 23:12-13, which talks about taking a shovel and digging a hole so you can use the restroom in it outside of camp. That's disturbing, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about probably one of the most disturbing verses that gives a lot of us trouble. And it's this. It's James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. It says this. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy." Let's keep going. "For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." Let me give you a clue about what James was going through at this time. You want to talk about bad times? When James was writing this was bad times. If you don't know who James was the brother of Jesus. Okay? And James didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah at first. I mean, think about it. Right now, if you have a sibling, think about the fact that, what if they were the Messiah? Would you really kind of believe that? Yeah, you probably would be like, my older brother? What? No. So James was like that until later on in his life, actually until after Jesus died and rose from the dead. That's when James kind of said, okay, I believe. And he's writing a letter. He's writing a letter to a group of Christians, and he is writing this letter during a time whenever Christians are being persecuted bad. And I'm not talking about like, oh, Christians, you're stupid, and you look weird, Jesus fish. It's not that kind of persecution. It's the type of persecution where they'd find out you're a Christian, they would take you into the Colosseum, and they would kill you. They let lions eat you alive. They would, they would beat you to death. They would stone you to death. It was not a good time. And then James has the gall, the audacity, all right, to sit there and say, your trials and your troubles, that you consider it pure joy. Consider it pure joy when you face troubles. These are some hard troubles. This year, as far as Christianity is concerned, it's had the most people killed for being Christians of history. For those of you who don't know, for a lot of people right now, this is James's words to them. Consider it pure joy. I don't know about you, but for me, I look at that and I'm like, what part of bad times is supposed to be something to be joy? Not even joy, but pure joy. I can think it's quite the opposite. We get to this point in our lives, we're thinking, why am I supposed to be like, oh man, my grandmother just died. We weren't expecting it. Hooray! No, like, what in the world is James saying? Why would it be considered pure joy? Because it's this. It says, when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Meaning that when bad things happen, that we have a chance to get closer to God. We have a chance to grow in our reliance on God. We have a chance for God to remove things out of our lives that were bad for us. Now let me explain. Because if I'm talking about if your grandmother died, I'm not saying that's what God removed so that your life's better. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that we have this line where it says tested. Okay? When your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Tested here is a smithing term. It's actually a silversmith term. Okay? Anybody know what a smithy is? Right? Anyone who's into like medieval stuff, It's the people who take silver and they shape it. And basically how this works is this. What they do is to make silver pure, because whenever you find like a chunk of silver, a chunk of gold, it's not like super pretty. It's like, oh, it's a ring already made in the earth. That's not how it works. You get this, and it's dirty, and it's got all this stuff in it, and it's not pure. So what they have to do is they take it and they heat it up really hot. Heat it really hot, okay? And they when it gets really hot, things float to the surface that aren't silver. It starts coming up, and then what the silversmith will do is he'll take it and he'll scrape it off, and then he heats it up again. He does that until there's no more impurities in it. Okay? Now what I'm saying is this, is that God takes trials and he turns them into transformations. Okay? God takes trials and he turns them into transformations. Something bad happens, you lose your job, your girlfriend decides to leave, your family member dies, etc. When these things happen, usually stuff in our life floats to the surface. Whenever I was in 10th grade, my grandmother died. She smoked a lot. So it was not a surprise whenever she got lung cancer. And it was still hard, 3 packs a day would get you for about 40 years. And we kind of knew it was coming, but it was still a hard time for me. And it was still hard for me to deal with. And in that bad time, what rose up in my life was that I didn't trust God to be in control of stuff. And that popped up during that time, it popped up to the top. And it was a hard time, but God showed me that, you know what? You're not trusting everything with me. You're leaning on your own understanding. You're thinking you got it figured out. And that popped up. This is where we get an opportunity. When these bad things happen, we have an opportunity. All right? Most of us take this opportunity to go with the why. Wouldn't you say? Most of us go, why, God? Why would you let this happen? Why would you, let the accident go? Why? I want to tell you something that has no easy answer to it, okay? God doesn't owe us a why. He doesn't. When my mom got in a wreck, God didn't give me a why. And for some of you, that's hard to swallow. As something comes up in my throat. Ugh. Irony? I think so. For some of us, it's really hard to swallow. Because we want to know why. How many of you are so annoyed whenever someone tells you to do something and you ask why and they say just because? Right? That's the worst. You're like, you got to make sure to, wait 30 minutes before you go in after you eat. Why? Because I'm an adult. And that's not true, by the way. So I grew up with that. And that was like legit. You didn't get in the water until then. But when we don't have a why, we often get discouraged. But here's the main thing we got to think about with God. There's really 2 things you need to know. One, God sees the whole big picture, and we don't. If I were to take a cup and I scooped up out of the Ogeechee here, out where it meets the water, the brackish point, I guess, and I'm trying to use terms I don't understand, and I scooped it up and I was like, boom, I understand the whole ocean because I have a cup of water from this spot. Do I really understand the whole ocean? No, all I have is a cup. And the cup's full and it's kind of dripping on my hand and it's gross water because we have gross water. And I don't have full grasp of everything. And there's no way I could. God sees the full thing. And here's the second thing I want you to think about. Just because something bad happens doesn't mean that God orchestrated a bad thing. God gave us free will. He gave us the ability to make good choices and bad choices. He gave us the ability to say, I want your love, I don't want your love. I want to go your way, I don't want to go your way. And there are consequences for having free will. So we have that aspect. And all this is not comforting yet, and I apologize, but it's true. But what God did say, and this is not a verse to click, so just warning you. In Romans 8:28, God did make us a promise. He said, and we know that in all things God works for the good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. God can make any bad situation, no matter what it is, and take it and make it for good. Notice I'm not saying make it good. Whenever my first cat got ran over in front of my eyes as a small child, nothing made that moment good. Nothing. In fact, it's the earliest memory I have. Yeah, I was 4. Never stood a chance. It was a big truck. Anyway, sorry, I'm reliving it. No, nothing made that moment good. But out of that moment, at a young age, my parents were able to talk about life and about death and about things that ended up helping me at the age of 4 understand a little bit more about life. God can take any bad situation. God can take, your parents getting divorced and help grow you spiritually even though that bad thing happened. God is able to do that. Because certain things, excuse me. Oh, I skipped the part. I don't want to do that. But here's the thing. What we don't need to ask is why. We do have a question we need to ask, though. We need to ask what. Not why, but what. And what do I mean by that? What? Anyway. What I mean is this. Are you asking God, what can I do to learn from this trouble? What can I do to help trust you more? God, what do you want me to get rid of in my life? Because these things pop up, and this is how it is for us. Now, certain things in your life don't get revealed that they need to be removed until you have pain. Back to the story that's killing Shannon, okay? Because she wanted me to, I purposely ignored you. Whenever I was in high school, I did get stabbed in the back, and I had money taken away from me. What happened? What happened was I used to work out a lot. Obviously not anymore, but I used to. And whenever I worked out, around around age 16, I started having pain in my back. And it was when I was doing bench press. I didn't know what it was. It kind of felt like I was like laying on like a toy or something. It was like something was poking me in the back. And I say this, I'm not a very vain person, so I didn't spend a lot of time in the mirror. I mostly wore gym shorts and t-shirts. But through working out, I realized that, man, there's something wrong with my back. And turns out, after feeling it a couple times, reached back, and I actually had a lymphatic cyst growing in my back. It looked like I swallowed a ping pong ball, and it got stuck under the skin of my back. It was big. And I never noticed, honestly. As far as I know, I guess a lot of people not checking out my upper back. No one told me. But I found out about it because there was a pain that was coming. It was a pain that was entering my life. I never would have known it could have grown on to be much bigger before I was like, oh, what's wrong with my leg? I don't know. And because of that pain, I realized that something needed to be done. And therefore, I went to the hospital. I laid down on the table. I got stabbed in the back, and they removed this thing. It was not cancerous, by the way, which was another big scare. But it wasn't cancerous. They removed it, and then they took around $4,000 from us. So they took my money. But it's true. So it wasn't a great time. And honestly, that time in between the surgery and when the results came back was not a good time. It was a time of going, do I have cancer or not? I don't know. Maybe I do. What if I do? Another moment as I'm getting heated up that God rose up to the top. You're not trusting me. Trust me. It was a bad moment that God used for good. There's a guy in the Bible named Paul. Most of you probably heard of him. He used to be Saul, then he became Paul when he met Jesus. Jesus will change your name. And so Paul was an awesome, awesome dude. Most of us remember some crazy, awesome things Paul did. Paul healed people. Paul was, one of the biggest missionaries in the Bible. He was zealous. He was a big-time speaker. I mean, literally, there's, several times he spoke and like thousands came into the fold. He is an awesome, awesome guy traveling around. But Paul runs into some hard times, okay? He has something that's bad in his life, all right? And he dealt with some pride issues. Who wouldn't, right? Paul was a rock star. I mean, he's the equivalent of like Billy Graham a couple years ago, which I don't know him, famous Christian, Tim Tebow. He's a really famous guy. And pride is something he deals with. So we're going to be looking here in first, I forgot what the verse is, 2 Corinthians 12, verse 7 through 10. And this is what it says, okay? Starting at verse 7. This is Paul. He's writing to Corinthians, okay? He's having a bad time. He's trying to encourage them. He goes, even though I have received such wonderful revelations from God, that'd be weird. Revelations from God, okay? So keep me from read in your spare time. Don't play video games. Anyway, no, there's a lot of reading videos. So to keep me from becoming proud. I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me and to keep me from becoming proud. Let's talk about this for a second. A thorn in his flesh. It's never described what it is. Like, more than likely, it's not like he went through a rose bush and he was like, oh, it got me. You know, it wasn't that kind of thing. A lot of scholars, you know, they have their guesses. Some thought it was a physical ailment. Some thought it was like a stomach deal. Some of them thought that it was possibly a speech impediment. Some people thought it might have been something like literally an annoying person that would not leave him alone. But there is something that is right in Paul all the time that's causing trouble. So this is what Paul does, next verse. He says, 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. That's not like, God, hey, thorn in the flesh. You want to get that today? No? Okay. Hey, God, now? No? Okay. God, now? No? Okay, 3 times. No. We're talking about begging. We're talking about time spent in hard prayer going, God, remove this. This is Paul. Paul is like a beast of a Christian. And they're like, remove it. Come on, God, remove it. And this is God's response. The next verse says, each time he said, this is God said, my grace is all that you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weakness so that the power of Christ can work through me. And then we go on to say this. Verse 10. It says, that's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Paul realizes this. Okay? And some of you may be going, Jack, this has nothing to do with shining for Christ. You're babbling on about something that's not even part of this. This is where this comes in. Because whenever we hit those hard times and they come in our life, God says, okay, you know what? We're going to make this an opportunity for stuff that's in you that's bad to rise up and remove it away. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I had the thing of renewing your mind. I sprayed the dirt on there. And actually got some down here, and I still haven't cleaned it up. But, you know, I know, gross. Totally gross. And it was like impeding the light because I was leaving dirt on it. This is the same way. There's like hard spots that can't be taken off this glass that's your life except through times like this. And whenever you come through a hard time, you are that much stronger for God on the other side. You are that much brighter for Christ. Paul is saying that because of this, God shows through even more in his life. Because of his weakness, because of this pain, because of this something bad, it is used to keep Paul in a place that he goes, you know what? You may think I'm awesome, but I'm not. But you know who is? God is. God is awesome, and God is able to take this bad situation and make it better for not only me, but also for him. So how do we apply this? How do we apply it? How do we take away? You know, I want you to take a second. I want you to think about the troubles in your life. Or troubles that have happened in your life in your past. Maybe something you see coming up. I want you to take a moment. I want you to think about it. I know, and it kind of stinks thinking about the stuff that hurt us. But I really want you to think about it, and I want you to say this to yourself, okay? Whether it's, you know, trouble with parents, whether it is, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend trouble, or lack of girlfriend, boyfriend, that's your trouble. Maybe it's school. Maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's something you did that you're like, God, why did you allow me to do something like this? Why did you give me the capacity to do something like that? Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you put something in the way? So whatever this trouble is that's there, and stop asking why and start asking, okay, God, what can I learn from this? What can you do in my life because this is here? Because there's no trouble you're going through that's unique to you. I know we want to feel that way, right? Like no one knows how it feels to lose a sibling. No one knows how it feels to have parents, fighting all the time. No one knows how it feels to have a physical ailment all my life or whatever it may be. No, there's people out there, followers of Christ, who've gone through the same thing you have. Jesus came down and did that. He went through all this stuff. You may be going, I don't remember Jesus having a physical ailment. I don't remember him having a speech impediment. I don't remember, Mary and Joseph fighting and Jesus being like, it's okay, it's cool, because we're going to make it. No, Jesus went through and he experienced all the temptations and struggles like we have. Right? Jesus came through and he did the ultimate suffering for us. And in that bad situation, what got Jesus through was him focusing on God and going, God, this is a part of your plan. Jesus even asked for it not to happen. You remember that? He did it more than once. He prayed to God and he said, God, if there's any other way, let's make it happen that way. But if not, I know this is better. I know whatever you have is going to be the best. And I want you to think about that. What, God, what can you teach me in a time whenever you're hurt, whenever bad things are happening? What do you have for me, God? What we're going to do is, I'm about to invite the group back up, and we're going to sing, and we're going to end. But I really want you to think about, what if you changed your mindset from why God to what God? Not why haven't you given me, but what have you given me? What can I do in this situation? For some of you, the why God is what's pushed you away from God. The not knowing, the bad situations, the whatever it may be. God cared enough for you to send his son for you. God cared enough for you to put his son through all kinds of bad pain for you, for me, for us. And tonight, if you want to make the decision, go, okay, God, I'm going to ask you, what do you want in my life? You can make it tonight. You can say, okay, God, I'll challenge you. Even if you're not sure about it, even if you're still mad about the whys, just go, okay, pray that for this week. What can you do in my life, God? Will you bow your heads with me? Father God, I thank you for today, and I thank you. I thank you for bad times, God, not because we love pain, not because we're supposed to jump around with smiles on our faces when stuff goes bad, but God, I thank you for the change that you can make in me through bad situations. God, I pray for anyone right now who's going through that bad situation, God, and they're getting heated up and that impurities in their life and the things that are struggles are popping up, God. I pray, God, that you give them encouragement and that you give them strength, and that as they go through this, God, that they know that you are with them and that you love them and that you are going to make it for good. You are going to make it better. And God, that we can know that even though you don't cause bad things to happen, that nothing is outside of your redeeming power and your redeeming love. God, I pray for whoever tonight is really struggling with that and struggling with the why gods. God, I pray that you just wrap your arms around them and that you give them strength and that you just shower them with your love. And God, that they feel peace to know that you are there and that you have something better for them in it. In your name, Lord Jesus, I pray. Amen.